0, 1, 2, 3. Let's get started.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the Mac45. This is a Mac10 build with a Mac10 upper and a printed lower receiver, making it into a very compact 45 ACP PDW. Okay, so here's the money shot right here. This is the Mac45. The lower is designed by Unseen Killer, and the upper I got from Velocity Firearms. They're on their website, it's called the VMac45. This adapter right here, because normally this barrel has the big chunky threads, I got this adapter from a place called Hughes Precision, and it's just because the suppressor that I have only has the regular fine threads. I don't have one that uses these big chunky threads, although there is one I can print, so I might make that at some point. But yeah, I know I probably say this about every gun at this point, and I have so many cool guns, it's hard to, pick a favorite, but this is one of my favorite guns now. I probably said the same thing about the DB Alloy last week. I'm just on this kick lately where I really like teeny tiny little guns, I like guns that'll fit into a backpack. Like, look how tiny this is. When you take the magazine out, I mean, look at this. This is like a foot right here. You could fit this into any backpack. Oops, I unfocused. You could fit this into any backpack. Like the Jackal that I bought from PSA a while ago, that one also folds, it's bufferless, and I could fit it into a backpack, but it barely fits, and I technically had to buy a slightly larger backpack to get it to fit. But ever since then, I've been on this mission to find like the smallest little PDWs possible, just because they're just really cool. I mean, that's really all there is to it. Like, this thing is really cool. The DB9 is really cool. The UMP that I'm going to be showing you guys next week, that thing's really cool. It's just something about the small form factor. I just like it, Like, I really want an MP7. Like, as soon as Palmetto State Armory comes out with that MP7 clone, I'm definitely buying it. I've always loved the MP7. I hate that HK won't just freaking import that gun. So as soon as PSA drops that thing, I'm gonna be on standby on the website just waiting to freaking buy it, because it's one of my favorite guns, and it's never even been possible for me to own one, just because if you've done any research on MP7s, it's like the cost of them is outrageous. But anyways, back to the Mac45. And actually, sidetrack here, all of the files that I talk about, including this one, they are available for free on my Patreon. So the Patreon's the same name as the channel, Will Print for Food. And you don't even have to be a member of the Patreon to access the files. I just use Patreon as like a repository to post all the files, so that anybody who's watching the channel can also follow along there and have access to everything that I'm talking about as it goes. And I usually drop the files on Patreon first. So if you're a member of the Patreon, you'll know what the newest video is going to be usually in advance, because I'll usually put the files there and then the new video will come. In this case, I posted these files like maybe a week or two ago, but all those files are there publicly available, so you don't even have to be a member to access them, because obviously I didn't make these things. I just printed them, so I'm not going to charge money for that. I do have paid tiers, and I just today actually, at the time of filming, I just added a Discord server. So if you're on the $5 or the $10 tier, you'll have access to the Discord server. So back to the Mac. I just really like the Mac platform in general. Like the Mac9, like the one I showed you guys 2 videos ago, and now the Mac10. They're just really good guns. Like, they run really well. Like, I haven't had any issues that I've had are related to, my own failures, not the gun, right? Like, the DB9 runs flawlessly. The only issue that I had was with a magazine that I printed that wasn't perfect. The Mac45 runs flawlessly, except for one issue is the feed ramp geometry is a little bit messed up, but that's not the designer's fault and that's not the Mac's fault. That's my fault, because my printer is not like when I was printed this, it wasn't completely calibrated for PETCF, so my parts were just like a little bit out of spec, like slightly bigger than they needed to be. So that led to an issue with the feed ramp where when I'm shooting, it'll run through the whole magazine up until like the last 2 or 3 rounds, and then I'll get a double feed, and it happens almost every time. I'm actually waiting on a metal feed ramp to come. I ordered a metal feed ramp from a Chinese printing company, and that should be getting here in the next couple days, and then, you know, I'll do some kind of follow-up to let you guys know if that helps at all. But really, I just need to reprint this particular feed ramp. I just, you know, I printed it and I just wanted to get to the range and start shooting and stuff, and it does work. It just, I have a slight issue once I get to that last 2 or 3 rounds. But speaking of range footage, let's go to that, because I'm sure that's what you guys are all waiting for. So first, I'll just show you a bunch of footage from the range, from the first shots to the second time that I went to the range with it. Okay, so as you can see, it runs really well, and you don't have to, you know, a lot of people think like with 3D printed guns, you got to baby them. That's just not the case. You know, you can see there, I'm shooting really fast, not worried about it at all. This thing is super accurate. You can tell like where it's going on the target. Like, you know, it just works so good. Like I said, it's one of my favorite guns already. I know I keep saying that, but I just really like it because I've wanted a 45 caliber PDW for a long time, and I had the 3011, which is like a modified 1911. You know, it's a 1911 upper, then a printed lower, which turns the 1911 into like a little PDW type thing. But I started having issues with the feed ramp after a while, so I scrapped it. I put my 1911 back together. I mean, because my 1911 is one of my favorite guns, you know, so I didn't really want to have it taken apart and dedicated to this other build anyways. I just wanted to build that thing because it was cool. And I talked about it in a previous video like months ago, but my 1911, I put that back together and the 3011 got shelved. And ever since then, I've been looking for a dedicated 45 ACP PDW build. And originally I was actually looking to buy one, but once I started looking, I found out that the options are extremely limited, and the options that are out there are extremely expensive, most of them. I mean, some of them are affordable, but for the most part, it's very expensive. Like the one that I was looking at that I really liked because of the form factor, like it's just the smallest one you can get. It's from CMMG. It's their bufferless AR-45. It's a little tiny thing just like this. But that's like $1,800. And now I understand the CMMG, they make really good stuff. They've got the radially delayed blowback and they've got some special type of delayed blowback. So it's like a smoother shooting gun, I'm sure. But, you know, I couldn't really justify spending $1,800 on a new gun right now because I've bought a lot of freaking gun stuff recently. I kind of went, especially this last month. I mean, just this last month, I bought the Mac9, the Mac10. I got the freaking stuff for the UMP. I got the P90 2 months ago. I got the Ruger RXM 2 weeks ago. Like, you know, I've been going a little overboard on the gun stuff. And that's not even including all the ammo and the range fees. So it's expensive. Actually, it's not even including the tax stamps for the suppressors too. It's expensive to do this kind of stuff, okay? So please like and subscribe. But on a serious note, I wanted something in 45, a little tiny .45 caliber PDW, and I realized that the cheapest way I was going to get what I want was to make it myself. Because after I made the DB9, I was like, okay, well, there's the Mac 11 in 9mm. I was like, maybe there's a Mac 10 version of something, you know? And sure enough, there is. So as soon as I realized that there was a Mac 10 lower out there that was printable, I pretty much immediately went and bought the freaking Velocity upper receiver so that I could, you know, get on with the build. And I love it. It's freaking sweet. I mean, everything that you see here is less than $500, like all, including the magazine, which is, I mean, not in the picture right now, but everything you see here, it's less than $500. I think the upper receiver was like $380 or something like that. It wasn't that expensive, $350, I can't remember. You can also print the magazine. And by the way, all of this is printed out of PETCF. I've been using PETCF a lot lately. I just really freaking like it, and I'm just kind of on a kick with it lately. This magazine is printed with it. Magazine works really well. This one holds like 20 something rounds, and then this one that I bought from the store holds 30 rounds. So I kind of like this one just because I like the, you know, maximum capacity, but it is a cheap magazine, so it's not the best. This follower, actually, if you push the rounds down too quickly or too aggressively, the round can actually make its way past the follower, and then you got to take the freaking magazine apart to get it so that it's not trapped in the spring. But whatever, it was cheap. It was like $30. But yeah, PETCF, I'm really liking that material right now. I've used a couple of different brands. I've got another roll behind me that I'm actually going to be using to test out as well, because so far I've tested the Fiberon from Polymaker, so the Fiberon PETCF. I've tested this stuff from Soriatech or Seriatech, I can't remember how to pronounce it. And then this other roll is, I can't remember the name of the company, but it's off Amazon. PETCF is actually really cheap. As far as like, you know, like high quality filaments go, like the kind of filaments that you can build gun stuff out of. Even for the Fiberon, which is kind of the more expensive, you can get the half kilo rolls for $24 on Amazon, and I've seen them as low as 22. And lately they've had this 10% off coupon on there. Like every time I look at it, there's a 10% off coupon. So they've had some kind of sale. This is printed in the Soriatech stuff, I do believe. I can't remember actually. Yes, this is printed in the Soriatech stuff. And the UMP, or no, this is printed in Fiberon. The UMP is printed in Soriatech. I like the Fiberon a lot, and it allows me to print with my 0.4 nozzle without much of an issue. But the Soriatech, I've noticed, almost requires the 0.6 nozzle, because I just kept having issues with clogs if I use the 0.4 nozzle with the Soriatech. So I don't love that stuff. Also, the way that it comes off the roll is super aggravating. It's like it has this permanent twist that you can't untwist. No matter what way you try to spin the roll to like get the twist out of it, it's like permanently twisted, and it's in such an extreme way that once it gets towards the end of the roll, it'll actually start pulling the roll up and out of the filament dryer. Like multiple times, I just barely caught the, you know, before there was an issue. Like it would pull the whole roll out of the dryer, and I'd hear this loud bang from another room, and I'd catch it before it would, you know, cause an issue where, you know, because obviously if the roll comes out of off the freaking reel, then, you know, it's not going to feed through the, you know, the extruder's not going to feed it down through the nozzle properly. So the Soriatech stuff, or Seriatech, however you pronounce it, that stuff was very frustrating to use. I don't hate it. I mean, it's cheap, but it's hard to recommend. I mean, if you're already running a 0.6 nozzle and you're willing to deal with a few kinks, then, I mean, go for it. A lot of people have reported that it's stronger than some of the other brands, but from what I've seen personally, they all seem to be as, I haven't done a ton of testing obviously, but they all seem plenty strong. You know, when you're doing builds like this that have a lot of really thick components, you're not really going to have an issue from one brand to the next. As far as my experience goes. Like this is like a pretty chunky build. The UMP, which I'm going to be showing you guys next week, that UMP build is all, the whole thing's printed. The upper receiver's printed, the lower receiver's printed. It's a fully printed gun. And it's been shooting just fine. Haven't had any issues with cracking. I know a lot of people seem to think that PETCF is very brittle, but it's only brittle after it's been annealed, and you only need to anneal it if you're going to be running a very high temperature application. So when it comes to this kind of stuff, you basically don't need to anneal it, and you shouldn't anneal it. Like if you're gonna run PETCF for this type of build, I personally wouldn't anneal it, just because then you are going to have a more brittle final product. But yeah, as far as concerns of, you know, shattering or anything like that, I just don't see that happening, especially with this particular build, just because this doesn't have the kinds of stresses on it that are going to make it do that kind of thing. With the UMP, I guess time will tell, because like I said, that's a fully printed upper receiver. So if anything's going to shatter, that would be the one. But I've already put a couple hundred rounds through the UMP, and I haven't had any issues so far. That thing runs really good. Actually, I'm excited to show you guys that UMP, because it's a freaking sweet little gun. But anyways, I'm rambling here. I just really wanted to show you guys this, and if you're looking to build a 45 caliber PDW, I would highly, highly, highly recommend considering this, because cost-wise, I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed to find something as cost-effective as this in this form factor. You know, if you just get a standard AR-45, there's basically only 1 or 2 options out there that are bufferless to buy, and one of them is $1,800. So if you want a bufferless, foldable, backpackable, tiny little 45 PDW for less than 500 bucks, this is 100% going to be your best option. And it's just really cool. It just works really good. It shoots really nicely. I mean, it is kind of a heavy gun, if I'm being honest. But it's not like so heavy that I'm like, whoa, you know, it's not like when I first picked up the Jackal from PSA, that is a noticeably heavy gun. I was like the first time I grabbed it, I was like, okay, this thing's, you know, a chunk. But this one, you know, for its size, I feel like it's just the right amount of weight. I mean, could it be lower or could it be lighter? Sure. But do I care that much, and does it matter? No. You know, like I said, if anything, the weight in this particular case just makes it feel better when you shoot it. But yeah, anyways, so when the new metal feed ramp comes in, I'll do some kind of update to let you know how you guys know how that goes. See if I can get the issue with the double feed fixed. But anyways, if you like this video, if this is the kind of content that interests you, please like and subscribe. Like I said, you can find me on Patreon. If you want to support the channel directly, that's the best way to do it. There's, you know, the free tier. Or you can join for free, and then there's 3 paid tiers if you want to support the channel. And like I said, all of the files are available for free. They're publicly available. You don't even have to be a member. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.